Video 2, piano playing. Began the piano at the age of 14. Requested this. My parents said yes, as long as I showed willingness, they would buy me a piano. So for one term, I practiced at school. Piano playing was very emotional. I would borrow lots of music from the library and do lots of sight reading. I don't think I ever knew how to study properly, and I never played the composer. I played me. I was told I banged a lot. It was an outlet. It was my language. I played for hours and hours and hours in a semi-detached house next to the sitting room where my sisters and brothers and mother would be sitting trying to watch TV. The wall was only, so thick. It must have been awful for them. I remember an incident where my sister would throw the metronome at me. They just had enough. But for 4 years, I would rattle up, scales, and I took my grade 8 after 4 years, which I failed. But a lot of my playing was for my mother. A lot of stuff going in my head all the time. I wasn't playing from here. I was playing from here. So I say. It's going to be difficult to be truthful because all these videos are based on history, based on memory, based on imagination, based on what I think that happened. I would cry a lot during my playing, especially through my 20s. There's a lot of resistance in doing these videos. I can feel it right now. I don't want to stay here and talk about it. I became very proficient. There were times when I did a lot of accompanying. I accompanied a singer at the town hall. But I accompanied an oboe player during tutorial at college. And I was so nervous that I had the pedal down during a Baroque period, and the pedal shouldn't be used in that period of music. Well, very sparingly, if any at all. And it was her tutorial, not mine, but I was accompanying her. And the class honed in on me. They focused in on my poor accompaniment. And so did the lecturer. It wasn't put down to nerves. It was as if I intended to play with the pedal. Nerves got the better of me. Nerves have ruined my life. My nerves has ruined my life in early on. So in the afternoon, I went from that tutorial feeling very depressed and miserable with myself. And this reminds me of a time when I was on stage at school. I was 17 or 18, had a small part, Aegeus in Midsummer Night's Dream. And I fluffed my lines, and I banged my head, and the powder came off the wig, a big powder storm. And I walked off stage and cried my eyes out. Absolutely cried my eyes out. Anyway, going back to the story of the tutorial, in the afternoon, I walked on the Yorkshire moors, and it was extremely dank and depressed weather-wise. Afternoon, like 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I remember going to the medical centre to say I was upset, but there was nobody there. So went out onto the moors, and it was painful and distressing. And in my memory, I walked miles, and there was this wild dog tethered to a post, and I was dead scared of passing it, but I think I had to go by it. What it was doing there, I just do not know. I had a Mini at the time, and I remember getting back into the Mini after a length of time wandering the hills, the Yorkshire moors, cold, misty, dank. You know, Yorkshire, no hedgerows, all stone walls. Got in my Mini, then I think I went back home to my digs in Brockhurst, I believe, Huddersfield, and I took an overdose and laid on the bed, waiting to end my life, waiting to die, to be with Jesus. This is my second or third suicidal attempt. And I think what I'm going to do is be repeating myself in other videos, depending on the subject, because I no doubt will do another video regarding my suicidal attempts. Anyway, so I got into after a while I thought this is ridiculous. Maybe I was fearful of ending my life, die. So I got in the car and I drove to what I thought was the nearest hospital. Apparently it wasn't. So I drove to that hospital, distressed no doubt, went in and said I've taken an overdose, and they immediately gave me a stomach pump. And then from there I was transferred to the psychiatric ward in another hospital, more modern hospital, where I was detained for a month or so, during which time some of the lecturers one lecturer visited me. He was the head of music, I think, or the deputy head. His surname began with M. And the cello teacher, Kathleen Mountain, visited me. And I remember being called Peter the Pest, because I would be pestering the therapist there. And I had ECT, 6 doses of ECT. I can see me now on the stretcher or on the bed going into the place where they gave you the anaesthetic. I can see myself, or imagine myself coming round and very dozy and dopey, and I was walked around. I may have been there for 6 weeks because they started thinking that I would be well enough to go back to college during the day, but I wasn't. And I was under, obviously, psychiatric care, and I had medication. And I remember going in this one time to the psychiatrist, and he had newspaper cuttings in my folder, and I had no idea what they said. Maybe it said something like college student attempted suicide, something like that. But they were definitely newspaper articles. And about 10 years ago, today is the 5th of September 2020, about a certain length of time ago, I tried to retrace my records, but they're not kept after a certain length of time, so they've been destroyed, apparently. So my piano days, yes, I would bang the playing and I'd repeat over and over again. I'd be always at the piano, and I just don't know how they managed. And if they said anything, no doubt I would have screamed my head off or thrown a tantrum. Material for another video. I suppose I'll be doing these videos as things arise in my mind. So yes, I was very nervous. I didn't pass my grade 8 first time. The second time I took it was about 3 or 4 years later as an adult, and I got a merit, but I didn't have any tuition. I went in and I felt quite embarrassed about taking grade 8, considering I was teaching the piano. I suppose I should make a list as I go along about the various subjects, topics that I'll speak about. So, videos about suicide, I said, and about piano teaching. I've touched on college days today, but I suppose I'll do a video on college days. I had a teacher, Marjorie Harper, at school. Prior to her, I had Clive Frost, the head of music, for a short while. Oh, and didn't I crying my eyes out when he was leaving school? I was 16, and the head of music, Clive Frost, decided to move from Bishop's Cleeve Comprehensive School to Kent and become a music advisor there. And I cried my eyes out. Goodness me, what a pathetic person I was. I was an emotional wreck, I'm sure. I was nervous, I was neurotic. I didn't know myself. I suppose I should keep to the piano. So I took the grades, 2 grades a year, 2, 4, 5, 6, and 8, I think. I don't think I did 7. Maybe I did. And I often practiced at school, on the school piano, which was a lovely piano, grand piano, and John Waller. He was an expert pianist, was not head of music, but second music teacher. And Penelope Mellis was there as well. And she and a sixth former became lovers. And everyone knew that Jonathan Merritt and Penelope Mellis were lovers. And she was a fine horn player, but she died in her 30s. She died pretty young. Lovely lady. I can remember the Shostakovich piano, some piano pieces by Shostakovich. I've still got that piece of music, which was hers. She invited me to supper in her apartment or flat or whatever you call it, in a farmhouse in Winchcombe, not far from Sudeley Castle. And Jonathan was there. So that was nice. Was I driving at the time? No, couldn't have been. Or was it after I left school? So, piano, keep concentrating on the piano. And I accompanied the Bishop's Cleeve Choral Society at their rehearsals. I must have been quite a good pianist. I was a good sight reader, extremely good sight reader. I had 20 out of 21 for my grade 8 sight reading. I played the hymns at church. I started going there when I was 14 on a harmonium. It was either myself or Paul Barnett. And Paul and I, he was the son of the priest. And so we're going to have a video on church days. And video on friends. That would be good. And yes, I love playing the hymns, and I played them. Oh yes, Birmingham. It's amazing how, as long as I'm speaking from this open-handed place, you will understand this if you've heard the video on the clenched fist and the open hand. The clenched fist clenches me down and suppresses me and I can't talk. But when you like the open hand, things just flow from you. It's marvellous. So my piano days, yes, Paul Barnett and myself, we played piano duets occasionally, and we went to Doughty House in Cheltenham to entertain and Orchard House in Bishop's Cleeve to entertain the residents there when we were 17, 18. And I came away with 2 A-levels. Why I'm saying that is that Paul Barnett didn't come away with any A-levels, I believe. Piano, come on, focus on piano. My first piano was, I think, £5, and I think we wheeled it through the streets from, this is what I remember, but maybe I'm wrong, from Toby Field Road in Bishop's Cleeve to our address in Ellenborough Road, behind the school. Maybe it wasn't wheeled, but I've got this idea that it was wheeled through the streets. So we're talking about 50 odd years ago, when I was 14, 15. And then my father bought me a new upright piano. When was that? I forget. I think I had a couple of old pianos before my new piano, and they were positioned against the wall between the dining room and the sitting room. But maybe I did play well. I just know that, but I was nervous. And this one incident before Clive Frost moved, that's right, it was a grade 6 piece, a Baroque piece, maybe Bach, can't remember. And it was Bach, it was one of the inventions. And he asked me to perform it in school assembly. He said, you can play that standing on your head. He knew I could play it well. Come the second page, I make a mistake, go back, try and pick myself up. And I walked off. I picked up the music, walked off, and threw the music in his lap. He was sitting by one of the doors. And I went home. Home wasn't very far away. It was across the playing field. And I cried my eyes out again. And when I returned, he said, go and apologise to the senior mistress, I think it was Miss Legg, for ruining her assembly. So, again, I was punished. I was being punished all the time for my deficiencies. No one really sat me down and no one really sat me down and got me to talk about my internal nonsense that was going on in my mind all the time, which was interfering with my growth, interfering with my stability, interfering with relationships, interfering no end. I'm not going to cry my eyes out, but my eyes are welling up. And so, yes, I must be professional about these videos, and I must, put descriptions and words or 2 words or whatever about the content of the videos in the description box. But this is me sharing. It's a video of my life, and that's the important thing. And when you live on your own, you want to share. Everyone wants to share, but when you're not living on your own, you are automatically sharing, and you may not have the feeling that it's important to do videos. Going back to piano, whatever things. I didn't do the competitions, though there was a time, I think one of my Marjorie Harper would like me to have done the competitions. I didn't just do the grade music. I can see some other music in my mind's eye now. that was related to the competitive festival. Maybe I did do a competitive festival, I don't know. But piano, come on, what else is there about the piano? So yes, I went home to my mother and said, could I play the piano? Partly due to the fact that people like Karen Stoganoff, it was Karen or Katrina, I think it was Katrina. Anyway, she was extremely good. And also Helen Hughes. Was it Helen? Married to Richard Ling. Oh, Linda Hughes. And some others played during the lunch break, and they were excellent pianists, and I think I was envious of their ability to play, and so I went home and asked if I could play and have lessons. So I was told, yes, you can have lessons for a term before we buy you a piano to see how you take to it. So I practiced at school under the tutelage of Clive Frost. But my first playing of the school piano, if I remember rightly, was when I was not meant to play. And me being me, the school, Clive Frost walked out of the music lesson to go to the staff room, which was next door to the music room for some reason. And I think he made a point of saying no one must play the piano while I'm out. So anyway, I go to the piano and I played. And he heard it from next door, and I came in and I got a telling off, and I think I got a whack on my hand. Corporal punishment was acceptable in those days. So what else can I say about my piano playing? As a student, I went to Birmingham College and started having lessons with a lady. She was ever so nice. She said slow playing is extremely difficult to play well. Fast playing is not so difficult. And she wanted me to do my diploma. And she said, don't worry about doing grade 8. But there you are, I ended up in Ruby Hill Hospital in the second term. So that didn't happen. And then when I went to Huddersfield, I had another lady teacher. She was English, but she was married to an Indian guy who was the head of piano at Huddersfield Polytechnic. And she got me, I was asked to do 2 advanced works, far too advanced. She wanted me to do some Chopin studies and a Mozart sonata, the A minor one, number 8, I think. And I needed to learn how to play basic pieces, simple pieces, beautifully. I needed to know how to get a grade 8 standard, a distinction standard on basic pieces. It's okay to play a piece of music and only get a pass mark, but to play a grade 1 piece at a high standard and also to learn to memorize, that's what I should have been shown how to do. I wanted someone to sit down and play beautifully to me so I could emulate or whatever. But no, that never happened. But I knew deep down that's what I needed. Oh yes, the Revolutionary Etude by Chopin. God, it's good sitting at the piano. I remember these little snippets. John Waller, I mentioned him earlier, was the teacher at school, and wasn't he a fantastic pianist? And he would rattle that revolutionary study. He rattled it off. Absolutely wonderful. I remember him having a conversation with my piano teacher, and she said that he would say, keep your movements to the minimum. So he was a minimalist. when it comes to playing the piano. Not to use your arms when the hands would be sufficient, etc. Or not to use your wrists and arms if your fingers were sufficient. Marjorie Harper, I remember her playing the fantasy impromptu from memory. She was playing that in the hall when I walked in once. She said that she was an excellent pianist at one time. But I think she still was. She accompanied the choir and on a regular basis. She had many students. Went to her house during vacation once. I remember playing yes. I remember playing that, and I was all strung up. And so when you're strung up, you play too loudly, you don't play sensitively, etc., etc. And that's the thing. Yes, you see, I knew I could play well and beautifully on my own, but that never happened in front of anybody. I wasn't at ease. I wasn't relaxed, and that was a terrible dilemma in my head. Because the teacher would be trying to get me to play as I could, not knowingly. The teacher thought that's how I played. Whatever you produce in the lesson, the teacher thinks that's how you play, or even when you're at home. So to play beautifully, like I can play, was what the teacher was wanting me to do, and they were trying to get me to do that. But I could do it intuitively on my own. Play beautifully. So had I the right guidance and understanding, maybe I could have been a concert pianist of some degree. But no one could do anything with my mind. That had to be the job of Adidar Samraj. Who has played a great part in my maturity and growth these last 30 years. Because if you don't know, I am able to play publicly, etc., due to him. And what else? Yes, I remember, because of nervousness, I didn't even accompany my students as well as I could in their exams and in the festivals. And one mother commented on it. She said, "Peter, what's happened? You don't play like that when you're when you're accompanying my daughter at home." She could tell the difference. And I've had lessons as an adult, and with a couple with John, forget his surname, and Colin Deccio. John's surname begins with H, I think, and of course Janice Williams. But again, I couldn't cope with lessons. I just couldn't relax and be me. I was so self-conscious. video on self-consciousness, I think I'll have to do. Whatever. And I'm jotting down things on the titles of various videos that I'll do. And there was I went to this one lesson with John, I forget his surname. I just couldn't play a note. I played the one note, I think, and I stood up and I stared out of the window, and I was absolutely beside myself. I just could not settle down and play. My mind was all over the shop. It's as if when I'm playing the piano beautifully on my own at home, I'm making love. It's love making. You're making love with the composer and the music. And I often was playing to my mother when I'm on my own, you know. She loved that piece, that lullaby piece by Brahms. And I remember she said she used to sit on the bottom of the stairs and listen to me play that. So, and he said, I've never met anyone with such a big ego, because ego interferes. And so, yes, it's like when you're playing in front of someone, if you get back into that intimacy with the music, so intimate with the music, it's like having someone watching you make love. And that just wouldn't work. I have Nikita coming in now. Hi, Nikita.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Quite well, thanks. How about yourself?
Very well, thank you. Very well. Yes, I was just doing a little recording, so...
Sorry to
No,
interrupt.
not at all, no problem. No problem. But the trouble is I can't pause it and then start again on this particular program I've got.
Oh,
So
that's
I
weird.
must look into that. Maybe you can help me look into that, because it'd be very useful to pause.
I'm sure there are, because you're using Apple, right?
Yes,
Oh yeah, there are probably tons of apps that can help you that.
I must look into that. Thank you. Thanks, Nikita.
Not a problem.
Yes, with this particular video program, I'm unable to pause the video in order to resume. That would be useful, so I need to look into that. So that was a little bit of an interruption there, a little interlude, as it were. And so, yes, where were we? With, you said ego, yes. I mean, I think that was one of the first times I really understood what ego meant. And we're talking about maybe 30-odd years ago. I remember having a lesson at the old St. Mary's College, which became the university. I remember his name in a moment, I'm sure. I don't think it was John even. Anyway, what else about my piano history there? Nikita is a person staying with me. I do Airbnb, as you know. And piano, my piano days. You know, my piano training days, as it were. So I wasn't really trained. No, I know what it's like to be a pedagogue, as it were, one who sort of masters or has an ability to teach well. So that's another video. But you know, to be able to, as I said, I did a lot of sight reading. I would borrow books galore from the library, and I would play through these books, sonatas and what have you. I remember buying two of Beethoven's concertos from the Gloucester music shop, and I was so eager to play them, or at least get stuck into them. The Emperor, It wasn't the Emperor, it was number 1 and number 3, I think, from Duck Pinkerson in Churton, Gloucester. I came over on the bus, came back on the bus with the music on my lap. I was so excited about learning the music. And that's what I got very excited about learning new pieces. As I said earlier, I was very good at sight reading. And when I learned a new piece of music, but my first attempt at a piece of music was excellent, or very good. It was very good sight reading of the piece. And but then after that, it all went sort of downhill. It got worse rather than better. And it can only be that when I was sight reading, I was so focused on the music, so focused that I had no mental intervention, no mental interference. It was, yeah. So, what else can be said about my early days of piano tuition and piano experience? So I mentioned the Bishop's Cleeve Choral Society, and they were amazed at my ability to play. You know, I remember doing the Messiah. I could sight read music. But what I noticed that when sight reading meant I wasn't actually working in order to get, working at the music. I wasn't playing the music in order to learn how to play it. I wasn't studying the piece. I simply sat and played it with such freedom and abandonment, I think. That's the right word. So I didn't always play the right notes, but the essence of the piece was excellent, and I understood it, how it should go right from the beginning. And I can remember playing octaves, etc. I mean, that's difficult. So I would stand in for Marjorie Harper. That's right. I'm thinking of my choir days now, so maybe that should be another video. Choir days. Because when I wasn't playing, this is church choir days with Mr. Morgan, the organist. What a name, Morgan Organ. But I was in the choir at Saint Angels, All Saints. Was it Michael? Saint Michael and Angels, or Saint Michael in Bishop's Cleeve, the Protestant church there. Anyway, so what else took place? Yes, they were impressed. So I was always impressed about my sight reading. So I could sight read very well. But then when the mind got in, when I tried to do it for me, as it were, and that's always been the case, it interferes. The ego gets in the way. That I learned from Adidar Samrat. How to be free of ego. Now, what else about it? What else is there to talk about my background? Piano days. Yes, I had to. I was interviewed at Newton Park, Bath. I didn't get in, and I prepared a piece from the English Suite by Bach, the A minor one, and I didn't do very well. Oh. So, no, I didn't do very well at all. It's a long piece. What else? I think it was 6 or 7 pages long. Don't know whether they asked me to stop us, but they did. Had enough. Yes, I could feel the music when I'm on my own. The intimacy when playing on your own. I was learning Wolstein. I put myself, learning the Wolstein Piano Sonata in my teens and the Appassionata Sonata in my teens. I was doing all these big works. But I didn't know how to really study. No one taught me how to study. What else? Yes, I think, you see, I'm no good. I couldn't write this down. I'd have a block all the time. Speaking it is so much easier than writing for me. And of course, I'm not going to edit anything. This is it. I mean, if it comes to the, if I find that I produce, say, 100 hours of work, 100 videos, or what have you, and someone was willing to write it all down, then it could be edited. But this may be very welcoming by listeners, family and friends. I don't know. But I feel my story, my story of my life story, could be made into a film. Anyway, this is my second video. I've done a little introduction for the first one. And it's not going to be chronological because each video is going to share, there's going to be content in each one that will be more elaborated on in another video. Let me think, anything else? Duets? Anyone else played duets with me? Or yes, I accompanied at school. I accompanied some people at school. Accompanying I didn't find difficult. I didn't find I was nervous, except that one occasion on the whole when accompanying. Or did I? Maybe I did. I don't know. So maybe that's it. Well, thank you for listening.